Welcome to Local Matters. Today, we begin with a vital service. Talking Information Center, or TIC, is a nonprofit reading service that broadcasts on radio 24 hours a day to thousands of visually and otherwise impaired listeners. Julie Thompson invited Anna Dunbar, TIC's executive director, to talk about the organization and how they've had to adapt to current circumstances. Julie?
Anna Dunbar, so awesome to have you here today. You are the Executive Director of the Talking Information Center, known as TIC. Can you tell our viewers exactly what TIC is, your mission, and what you do?
Sure. The Talking Information Center is a nonprofit radio station that provides reading services for individuals who are blind or have some form of low vision.
And how long have you been in business?
So we have been around for over 42 years now. TIC opened its doors in 1978. Let me do my math here. And so we've been around for a long time. You know, we started as a really small nonprofit, just reading 3 newspapers a day and basically reaching residents here in Marshfield. And now we read over 322 programs every single week with the help of our amazing volunteers. And we estimate that we reach about 30,000 individuals across the state of Massachusetts.
Wow. Now, I know I volunteered for a while reading, and I read the North Shore News. I know there's people that read novels. They read the ads in the newspaper for the supermarkets. There's all kinds of different things that are read for people that can't see to read them themselves. Can you talk a little bit about how you've expanded what you read and what your content is on TIC?
Sure, absolutely. So really, it's all about need, and we're really fortunate to interact with our listeners quite a bit, both in hearing from them via the phone or email, and also we do a lot of community outreach, talking to low vision groups and things like that, so that way we're gauging what's actually needed amongst our listeners. You know, and you brought up the supermarket flyers, and it's the example I always like to give, because a lot of times people, if you don't have low vision or you don't know someone directly who has low vision, I feel like you don't think a lot about it, and not because you're a bad person, it doesn't come up all the time. So it's the thing that really shines the aha moment, whereas if you had low vision and you went to the grocery store and you were on maybe a fixed income, how would you know what was on sale with all those signs that say 2 for $5 and things like that? Right. If you couldn't see them. So we read all those ads and coupons and flyers for our individuals listening. That way they have that same information the same way you and I have the information when we go to the store.
Now, as a listener, do you have a guide that will show me exactly at what time what is being spoken on TIC, so I can pick and choose what I want to listen to?
Yes, absolutely. And I always love hearing from the listeners what their schedule is, because most of them, like all of us, we're creatures of habit, so they kind of have their routine every single day. So we have on our website, which is ticnetwork.org, we have our program schedule up there that lists each day, each hour in the day, what's playing. That way you can choose exactly for you what it is you want to listen to. So we have one listener who says she starts her morning with the Boston Globe, so she kind of gets a better handle on what's going on, big picture in the state. Mm-hmm. And then in the afternoon, she listens to the Patriot Ledger because she lives down here on the South Shore and she wants to know more locally what's going on.
Okay, great. So is there an audition process that people would have to go through if they want to be a volunteer reader for TIC?
Well, you know, it's very, very difficult, right? We're just that Lorraine, our volunteer coordinator, she's really tough. You know that, Julie. No, we do.
She said, "Can you read this sentence?" I said, "Yes."
Yeah. Exactly. That's for anyone watching. That's basically what it is. We do have you come in. We have you fill out a form, just kind of giving us your availability. And then we have you go into one of the recording studios and read a sentence, as you said, Julie. And then our program director essentially just listens to it just to make sure the quality sounds good. I've been here for almost 5 years now, and not once have we turned anyone away.
Right.
And because a lot of people, they say like, oh, I have a terrible voice. Like no one wants to listen to me, or I don't have like a professional voice. And, none of our volunteers are professional voice actors or anything. And what our listeners really love, kind of the intangible, is that you sound like the friend in the room with them. You're keeping them company and you're providing this important information. You're kind of a lifeline to the outside world. So they like hearing our little accents and idiosyncrasies and things like that. It's better than listening to the automated voice of Alexa or Siri or something like that.
True, true. Now, I remember when I used to go in, and it's a very small recording booth that you sit in. It's a little room, and there's a bunch of little rooms. So clearly you probably had to do some changing of things around during COVID. How has the pandemic affected how you run your business?
Yes, I mean, I think just like anyone, it's changed it drastically. And I'm so grateful to our amazing staff for being so innovative and staying with us to rally through this. We really didn't miss a beat. We did have to, like everyone, close our offices physically for a while there, but we did keep working remotely. And that's in great part to our producer, John Shea, who figured out how to broadcast and have volunteers record remotely. So he set up that entire process in place single-handedly. And then we had volunteers who were reaching out and saying, can I record from home? How do I record from home? Whatever you need, I'll do. So we were able to keep our program schedule going the entire time. And then when we were able to come back into the studios, we just are very mindful, and of course to this day with limitations, about how many volunteers we're having coming in. And Lorraine, our volunteer coordinator, and Liz Vandenberg, who's our operations assistant, are fantastic. We make sure that there's only, one volunteer in each studio per day. That studio gets thoroughly cleaned once they leave. And just making sure everyone who's walking in here feels very safe and that they are protected, that they're in good hands by us.
Right. And no matter how careful you are, sometimes people get COVID. And I know that you are a COVID survivor, as they call them now. Can you tell us a little bit about that process that you went through, getting COVID?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got COVID in early December. And again, I thought, I felt like I was someone who was being very safe and careful in my everyday life and wearing a mask and following all those protocols. But just the nature of this thing, it just kind of finds a way sometimes and kind of bursts your bubble, like your social bubble with people. And so I found out I had it. I told the staff immediately. I wanted to make sure that they got tested. It did seem unlikely that I exposed them given the guidelines from the Board of Health. But again, I care so much about that. I didn't want them to be in danger of anything. And then, of course, with the volunteers, until we knew for sure that they didn't have it, we closed the studios for 2 or 3 days to make sure that no one was coming in here with any possibility of being, infected. Mm-hmm. So I was home for about 10 days quarantining, which is what the Board of Health recommends. I was fortunate, I had a fairly mild case of it, of just feeling run down for a little bit. But I was able to work remotely. Again, the staff's incredible. And John Shea got me all set up to work from home on my laptop. And we just kept going, regardless. So I was very fortunate. We were very open with the volunteers and listeners about it. Because again, I think in this time more than ever, information is power and helps people feel comforted.
Sure.
So I didn't want anyone to feel like it was being kept from them, that I had it, and
yes,
if they were in the building at the same time as me. So.
Right. No, always transparency. And one final question to you is, and this is an odd one, but how do you reckon with all the different types of information that's out there that you could be reading? Like, if you're reading a newspaper and there's an op-ed and it's clearly one side or another of whatever the subject is, do you coach your readers to not read it, or do they read it, or do you have a standard or a stance on that type of information?
That's a great question. And I actually feel like it's probably something that has changed drastically in the last few months, for sure. And we haven't run into any drastic situations where we feel like we shouldn't be reading something because it's spreading something, hateful or anything like that, which is good. Overall, our policy is to, if it's in the publication, we'll read it. And we want to read all points of view and cover all materials so that we, as the organization and the volunteers, are never editorializing what we read.
Right.
So if a volunteer reads an article and maybe they don't personally agree with the article, we tell them they should not comment on it themselves as the volunteer, because if I pick up a newspaper, I have full sight, I can read an article and I can make my own judgment about what I'm reading.
Right.
So just because you're reading it to me, Julie, I should be able to listen to it and make that same opinion versus having that person reading it tell me at the same time what their opinion of it is.
Right.
So we're very careful about editorializing, and we just try to cover, if you look at our program schedule, we read just about everything under the sun. And then during the pandemic, we also added on COVID-specific information to make sure that all that information being put out there was provided in an accessible manner to the listeners.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Anna Dunbar. TIC is one of our favorite partners. We love what you do, and we wish you the best of luck, and hopefully we will all open up and the world will come back to some semblance of normal in a few months. Yeah. So we thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Julie. I appreciate it.
Back to you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Julie and Anna. For more information on the Talking Information Center, visit ticnetwork.org. Imagine that you're taking a walk in your neighborhood when an adorable dog appears on the sidewalk ahead of you. The dog seems to be alone but friendly. How should you interact? Join dog safety instructor Kathy Akampora and her beautiful canine assistant Merida on January 19th for Dogs 101, learning to read your dog and prevent a bite. In this hour-long virtual program hosted by the Plymouth Public Library, Kathy and Merida will demonstrate the proper ways to act and behave around dogs you know and dogs you don't, but may appear on the sidewalk ahead of you. This program begins at 4 p.m. and is hosted by the Plymouth Public Library. Visit the website to register. Are you looking for a job with more flexibility? If you have just 15 minutes to spend, on January 19th at 7 p.m., the AARP is offering a free webinar on tailoring your resume, negotiating a flexible schedule, and finding a remote job that fits your lifestyle. This Facebook Live event is part of the AARP's Online Career Expo. New year, new ideas for finding flexible work. Visit the AARP program's Facebook page to register. The Duxbury Senior Center is hosting a fun, interactive whodunit game via Zoom on Saturday, January 16th at 5 p.m. With an opening night to die for, Bullets on Broadway is a murder mystery game where you'll be assigned a character to play and may just be the culprit. Visit duxburyseniorcenter.org to register. Erica is here to update us on our schools.
Both Silver Lake and Pembroke High School welcomed staff and students back to their building last week and wished everyone happiness and good health in 2021. To ensure safe in-person learning, each district will continue to monitor potential changes, including staffing shortages due to quarantine or illness, inability to trace close contacts, or other factors that health officials deem to be problematic. Each school will move into a remote model immediately should any of these possible changes emerge. They encourage families to prepare for scheduling changes should schools need to switch to remote learning. Decisions about switching models are made in coordination with public health officials. A reminder, all staff, students, and visitors must wear a mask on school grounds at all times except during designated mask breaks. We understand that many student athletes like to run and train out of season together. Please remember to leave masks on and practice social distancing at all times when using outdoor facilities on school grounds. To parents, if your child is experiencing any cold or flu symptoms or has a COVID-19 test pending, you must keep your child at home. Please feel free to call the school nurse if you have any questions. Because Silver Lake Regional High School's fall induction to the National Honor Society was postponed this year, the Faculty Council worked hard to induct members of the class of 2021 before the start of winter break, so that those students may include National Honor Society on their college applications. Invitations to apply and all relevant information will be sent via email to any member of the class of 2022 who has a GPA of 4.0 or higher on or before February 13th, 2021. Parents will also receive notification. Please feel free to reach out with any questions to the National Honor Society advisor, Ms. Dillon, at rdillon@slrsd.org. Guidance staff, the administration, and school librarian have updated resources for students, families, and staff who are experiencing stress, anxiety, depression, or other challenges related to the increasing impact of COVID-19 on the school community. You can find these on their newly updated Student and Family Resources page. Pembroke High School is excited to announce they are reintegrating Titan Time into their daily schedule as of Tuesday, January 12th. With September's uncertainty around implementing a hybrid learning model, they reluctantly and temporarily suspended Titan Time until day-to-day operations became more comfortable for everybody. They are pleased to bring this period back. To accommodate the addition of Titan Time's 30 minutes, they've made adjustments to create a new remote Monday bell schedule and a new daily bell schedule, which can be found on their website. They will also adjust their at-home support schedule to align with these new times. As a reminder, Titan Time is only used by students on their in-person learning days. Students looking for support at their at-home days will continue to use the at-home support schedule or teachers' remote office hours after school. We are looking forward to what 2021 will bring us this school year. Elizabeth, back to you.
Thanks, Erica. Art teacher Melissa Cowell is teaming up with the Kingston Public Library to offer Winter Wonderland, a virtual art class for teens and tweens. It takes place on January 22nd at 4 p.m. To sign up, visit the library's website. Outdoors is the safest place to socialize right now, and the Wildlands Trust invites you to join longtime Adopt a Preserve volunteer Skip Stuck and stewardship manager Eric Boyer on a hike of the Melzer Hatch Preserve and Colby Phillips Trail in Hanover. This January 18th woodland hike will be between 4 and 5 miles, crossing several bridges over Longwater Brook, Drinkwater River, and Cushing Brook. Get a look at some of the work and repairs the Wildlands staff and volunteers have done in the past few months on this moderately difficult terrain. Masks and social distancing are required. Visit the Wildlands Trust website to register. The Duxbury Free Library and Duxbury Race Amity Committee are hosting a virtual film and discussion series, speaking to the African American experience in this country. The session's movie is The Hate You Give, a film about teenager Star Carter, who lives in a poor, mostly black neighborhood, but attends prep school with wealthy, mostly white students. This uneasy balance of two worlds is shattered when she witnesses the death of her childhood best friend and needs to find her own voice amidst pressure and influence from both communities. The film viewing will be held over Zoom on January 20th at 7 p.m. Please register for both programs separately via the Duxbury Free Library's website. With no 6-hour plane trip required, Plymouth Public Library's Tom Comiskey invites you to a live virtual travel adventure to Spain on January 20th from 2 to 3 p.m. Tour the sights of Barcelona and Madrid, as you also enjoy readings from noted Spanish authors Cervantes, Garcia Lorca, and De Castro. Register for the Fireside Travels and Stories program via the library's website. On Monday, January 18th, celebrate the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. by joining the Voices on King free program offered by the Museum of Fine Arts and sponsored by citizens. Community leaders will share their personal reflections on the lasting impact of Dr. King and Mrs. Coretta Scott King. The event also features a musical performance by Danny Rivera and an original poem by poet Portia Olayawola. This year's celebration will be virtual, streaming live on the MFA website, Facebook, and YouTube pages from 5 to 6 p.m. Visit mfa.org to learn more. Ed Meek writes poetry, fiction, articles, and book reviews. His work has appeared in the Boston Globe, the Sun, the Paris Review, and the North American Review. His newly published book of poems is titled High Tide. This is his original work.
Hi, my name is Ed Meek. I'm going to read 3 poems from my new book, High Tide. The first is called On the Outer Cape. 100 miles south of Boston, where the Cape curls up like a dog's tail, a gazillion stars redefine the night. We've stepped out onto the porch to search for falling stars, which aren't stars at all, but meteorites, white streaks of cosmic dust flaming out like dreams at dawn. In August, they announce the coming end of summer, Meanwhile, in the garden, fireflies surprise us with their ethereal presence and the miracle of bioluminescence. Maybe it's the timing that makes us savor these sacred gifts. In the dead of winter in Somerville, underneath the street, beside the tracks, between the trains, an Asian woman, all angles, few curves, removes her black cloak, inserts her violin between her chin and collarbone, and launches into Paint It Black by the Rolling Stones that morphs into some wild jazz blues fusion and draws a crowd with raised eyebrows and unexpected smiles. We toss dollar bills into the worn case at her feet. When the train roars in, she stops and bows, and we clap. "Do you have a CD?" someone calls. She shakes her head. She is older than I thought. Her roots are gray. I step onto the train, wondering how many years it took to reach that plateau of facility with bow and strings. How many others, artists, musicians, poets, wear the cloak of anonymity? And this one's called The Last Game. When you die, you will slide under the tag at home, dust rising in the air. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed, and thank you for staying with us for this episode of Local Matters. I'd like to take a moment to recognize and thank a valued member of our community. Jennifer Harris came to Plymouth Public Library as Assistant Director in 1993 and rose to Library Director in 2016. In that capacity, Jennifer has secured funding and grants for special projects, installed a library gallery for local artists, opened a teen space, and overseen dramatic improvements to the building itself. At PAC TV, we have collaborated with Jennifer many times, to my personal great pleasure. Jennifer Harris retired as director of the Plymouth Public Library on Tuesday, January 12th. Jen, my friend, well done. From all of us at PAC TV, have a happy and safe week. We'll see you next time.